Okay, everybody, welcome to today's session for Empowered Classroom Management. As mentioned, I'm David Litman. I'm the Director of Programs and Training for the Terry and James Young Foundation over here on Maui and our school-based program, NVC Next Gen, which stands for Nonviolent Communication for the Next Generation. And if you don't know what nonviolent communication is, you'll have a better idea of what that is at the end of this session, I hope. If you're just joining us, if you could type in chat, let us know where you're coming in from, what school, what you do there. Always good to know who's in the room. And we'll go ahead and get started here.
So maybe they'll actually get along
Oh,
and they'll meet.
and thanks for muting. So we're here because I think we've all had this experience, as working with youth. And I shouldn't be upfront and say I am not a teacher in schools, but I do a lot. I've done a lot of work with youth in schools, coming in and doing programs and things like that. And I run a youth shelter for teenagers over here on Maui, short-term shelter for teenagers called Halepono Youth Shelter. And many times I have this experience of just saying, why won't they just turn? If I had hair, I'd pull it out. You know what I mean? I used to have hair, and just working with kids, I think, pulled it all out. It's just, why won't they just do what I want them to do? Why won't they just behave? Why do they have to be like this? Why does this have to be this way? And it's just really so frustrating. And so, we have tools and techniques that we've been taught, I think, and there's, dominant paradigms, if you will, of traditional behaviorism, which is the rewards and punishments model, right? How do we manage classrooms? Well, we use carrots and sticks, uh, and honestly, if this was enough, I don't think you'd all be here. We could argue that if in society as a whole, if punishments worked, we'd be in the safest society we've ever had because more people are incarcerated now than ever before. Um, but we actually teach something we call restorative practices. And based on this idea of restorative justice, if you apply that to the judicial system, it's this idea that if crime hurts, then justice should heal. If there's harm done, we should try to repair and restore relationships. So what we're going to do today is hopefully add to your toolbox. I don't want to take away the carrots and the sticks necessarily. I mean, if they sometimes are effective and sometimes necessary, but we want to. I never want to take away anybody's options, right? I always want to add choice into the situation and add choice into your classrooms and into your workplace and into your relationships in general. The stuff we talk about today, I've used in my marriage. I've been married for 30 years, and I don't think we'd have stayed married if we didn't use some of these principles. So hopefully it's useful to you in a number of levels. See, the problem with those methods, right, is this is, by the way, this is a quote from the founder of nonviolent communication. This is one of the techniques that we teach. And I encourage you to go to YouTube and search out this guy, his name, Marshall Rosenberg, and look up nonviolent communication. Some great videos out there. Again, we're only going to get through so much in 45 minutes here today, right? So we're going to introduce some concepts and hopefully give you some really useful things you can apply right away, but hopefully more open your eyes to the possibilities of learning more and finding other resources that we can point you to. But yeah, the idea is that Marshall Rosenberg said, you really can't make your kids do anything. All you can do is make them wish they had, and then they will make you wish that you hadn't made them wish they had, right? The idea of backlash, He also talks a lot about the idea of commitment versus compliance, right? We can get kids to comply, but we really want them to be committed to certain behaviors. So how do we do that? How do we add choice into the situation here? Well, we teach something we call restorative practices. And so the pillars of what we teach, one of them I already mentioned, this idea of restorative justice. And this comes out of a lot of indigenous traditions, actually. Again, these are things you could Google and research more on your own. But the basic principle is that rather than punish, we want to restore. We want to make things right. We want to heal and repair when relationships are damaged. And then this thing called nonviolent communication, which we're going to get into a little more deeply here as well, which is a method of conflict resolution. Really, how do we resolve conflicts in a way that everybody wins? And then, of course, this idea of trauma-informed care. This gets into the idea that kids do well if they can, not so much if kids do well if they want to. It's getting this idea of ability versus motivation and realizing that sometimes, the behaviors that we see, there's underlying reasons for it, and we want to address those too. So again, we'll only be able to brush on this lightly in our session today, but hopefully I'll introduce you and get your interest up in these topics so you can learn more. And we're going to be available. My organization is available to help you with many free offerings, and happy to connect with you after the presentation as well to teach you and help you learn more about these things. But just getting into it in general, really, I'd say that the foundation of this is this phrase: if you walk away with nothing else from today, this idea of connect before you correct. Connect before you correct, moving from the head to the heart. And that involves really looking beyond the surface level of things. And really, it kind of gets down to this idea of investing in relationships. So again, if you walk away with nothing else, this idea, see, I think we tend to look at these situations that arise in classrooms. This kid's acting like the class clown and he's making jokes and, interrupting and talking to his friends, or, they're on their phone or whatever it is. We tend to look at these things as isolated incidents, and we want to find transactional solutions to them. Like this happens, this is the consequence, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I solve it. And what I want to encourage you all to do is to try to think beyond that a little bit, to think about beyond the transactional level of that instant. What have I done prior to that instant to invest in the relationship with that particular person? It's like a bank, right? There's a moment where I want somebody to do something. I'm trying to make a withdrawal, essentially. And I have to have put something into the bank before I can take something out of it, right? So what have I done, to build relationship, to build connection, to build some kind of foundation where, I can make a request of a student and they care enough potentially, okay, yeah, I'll put that down. So, and oh, a copy of the slides. Yeah, I will. Yeah, we can make a copy of that available. I'll figure out how to do that later. If, at the least, I'll give you my email at the end of this. And you can email me, and I'm happy to send you a link. So let's open it up to the wisdom of the room here a little bit. Investing in relationships. What have you done? What have you seen done or done yourself to develop, positive relationships with students? Yeah. And you can just put it in the chat there. Maybe it'd probably be the easiest with the group this big. By the way, I hope no one thinks that this is like a bait and switch. Like, oh, I thought I was going to get more power over techniques. Here we are talking about power with. Fun team building activities. Yeah, maybe you can give us some examples where let's do it. Attend their sports game, lunch brunch, snacks. Yes, food goes a long way, right? Celebrating, yeah, celebrating birthdays. Play with them at recess. Make them feel seen. Yeah, Melissa, I'm wondering like what some specific things you've seen maybe that have helped them feel seen. Saying their names correctly. Greet your students at the door. There's a great video if you go to YouTube, just look a video of teacher greeting. There's some great ideas for how people do that with their giving kids choices. Listening to their stories, talk story about their interests. Yeah, taking interest in them, just listening. I share my goals and fears. That's opening up vulnerably to the kids as appropriate. Yeah, Lisa, for sure. Community circle time. Absolutely. We do a lot of circle technology teachings with our organization, sharing personal stories, journal writings. Yeah, talking to them, showing up to their events outside of school. Yeah, sharing personal stories. Excellent. Great ideas, guys. I'm going to save this chat and use it. So many good ideas. Creating Google Slides of my life and sharing that with them. Philosophy for children and community building. Morning journal. Creating a safe space for students to share anything and everything without feet. I'm thinking me without fear. Lunch bunch. Yeah, lunch bunch. I've seen that a few times. Absolutely. Reaching out and connecting. Just asking. Stuffed animals that become desk companions. I love it. Yeah, again, of course, some of this has to be age appropriate, right? Some things are going to be different with younger. An all about me wall. Exactly. Encouraging people to get to know each other, creating that safe space. Excellent. Building lessons. Wow, so many good ideas coming through. Thank you. Connecting with parents to share good news, listening to their jokes and riddles. Yeah. Oh yeah, getting into their music. Yeah, once I turned 30, I stopped tracking music. It's only because I work with kids that I have any sense of what goes on with the music world now. And I've been introduced to some great stuff that way. Fantastic ideas, guys. Thank you. You can keep them coming here in the chat. I'll move along. But yeah, one of the things we might think about is that, this is I'm not sure if this is really Theodore Roosevelt. It was attributed to him, but I've heard it from a number of people that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So just if nothing else, connect before you correct, right? And invest in the relationships. And if you walk away with nothing else from today, hopefully that will be helpful. Start thinking about ways we can do that so that we have something to draw upon when we want something from them. Okay. That being said, of course, conflict is inevitable. It's still going to happen. And when conflict happens, it can still be destructive in any relationship, right? But I do want to actually maybe help shift the mindset. And this is, we're getting now into this idea of our nonviolent communication teaching, what we teach. We call it NVC for short, nonviolent communication. The theory there is that conflict is something we want to run towards, not run away from. It's actually valuable. And this is an art form. I don't even want to say the name because I'm afraid I'll mispronounce it. I believe it's kintsugi, but it's a Japanese art form of where they actually purposefully break pottery and then put it back together, fusing it with gold, making something that was even more durable and beautiful than before. And I would love for you to learn to look at conflict in that way, that conflict's actually an opportunity to enhance relationship and to get needs met that were previously not met. So if it's handled well, that's actually very valuable. So how do we do that? Well, um, I love this quote from Albert Einstein. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. So we need to develop sort of a new level of consciousness, a new way of thinking about conflict, a new way of approaching it. And we do that through something we call an NVC, nonviolent communication. We do it through something we call needs consciousness. And so in order to get an understanding of that, we have to have an understanding of what needs are. And what do we mean by needs? Universal human needs. So to do that, I've got a little fun exercise here we can do together. I'm going to have to get myself out of presentation mode to do it, though. Here we go. And maybe expand the screen here a little bit. And needs versus strategy. So when I say needs, see, one way to look at human beings is that we're like sort of need fulfilling machines. We have these needs and we're trying to fulfill them. And we go through life and everything we do is an attempt to fulfill a basic need to make life more wonderful. And so, what are some of the things that make life wonderful? And I'll just throw it out there into the chat. You can start, throwing that into the chat for me. I may put some of my own ideas out here too. The things that make life wonderful, I would say ice cream is one of the best. Food, yeah, but or general, we could put food here. Family, I'm hearing friends and family. I'm going to put that. I'm going to put that one kind of on the edge of my circle. And family. Let's see, hobbies. Yep, I see hobbies. Poo-poo's computer, food, family, friends, um, shelter, travel, working out, uh, working out, massage, just walks in nature, skiing, sleep. Yeah, I'll put sleep in here. I'm going to throw a few other things in here, like that I saw, I think up above, like just love. And, I think sometimes we ignore just the general need for safety and, okay, freedom. Yep, nature. So many great things that we do to make life wonderful, right? Freedom and choice. Okay, so you kind of get the idea here as I'm putting some things in the circle. Oh, money. Yeah, can't forget money, right? That's an important one. I'm going to put that outside the circle. Okay, so I am putting some things inside my circle and some things outside of my circle. And I'm wondering if you can kind of figure out, I have a criteria that I'm using, right? There's something's got to like earn its way inside the circle versus being on the outside of the circle. And I'm wondering, what are you noticing with the differences? What are the differences between the things that I put inside the circle versus the things I left outside the circle? I'll give you a minute to think about that. You can put that in chat as well. Necessary for survival. So some of those things are survival based. Yep. Non-negotiable items, things you need to live. Yeah, for sure. That's partly it. Oh yeah, Jasmine. Maybe you have studied NVC before. Wants versus needs, inside of the needs, exactly. Yeah, so needs, right? Tangible versus intangible, a little bit more, exactly. Universal. Thank you, Nicole. That's right. The things inside the circle, I think, would be universally valued, right? These are universal. We call them universal human needs. No one would argue that freedom, food, sleep, love, safety make life more wonderful. My daughter would argue that ice cream doesn't make life more wonderful because she's lactose intolerant. Right? Intrinsic and extrinsic. Yeah, we're getting somewhere here. Okay. Things every human needs. The others is subjective and not necessary to survive. Exactly. And I would go beyond survive though and say survive and thrive. Right? It's more because it's about making life wonderful, not just surviving. So everything we do is an attempt to make life more wonderful and feel a certain way. Yeah, so you're getting the idea. So this idea of universal human needs it's this idea, and I have this sheet that we can give to you. I can put it in, I'll put it in the chat before the end of the session today. I'll give you a needs sheet. I often post this on my fridge to say, where am I lacking? What do I need to work on in my life to make my life more wonderful? These are just different areas and categories, not an exhaustive list by any means, right? But the idea is that needs are the things that sustain and enrich life, not just sustain it. They sustain and enrich it. But here's a really important thing about this. Needs are universal, meaning that everybody can agree that these things make life more wonderful. I can appreciate these for myself and for others. So when I focus on needs, developing a needs consciousness means that I'm staying in connection with people around this thing because, and you'll see what I mean in just a minute. But the other important thing here is that the idea between needs and strategies is that needs make no specific reference, right, to any specific person doing any specific thing, right? So going back up here, I put family and friends on the edge there because uh, I do have a need for connection, and family in general, right, is kind of a need, or relationship is more of a need. But specific people, specific family or friends, right, they're more of a strategy to meet that need. And so that's why it gives me a little, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but it gives me more flexibility when I realize that I don't necessarily need to have particular people in my life if they're not supportive people in my life. Money, I put that on the outside. A lot of people argue that one, by the way. When I do this with kids, they're like, well, you need money. It's like, well, why? And well, how am I going to eat? And I'll often throw the question right back at them. Well, how are you going to eat? And they say, oh, I guess I could grow it. My uncle grows callo, or I could steal it. Well, that's another strategy. Maybe causes other needs to not get met. But the point being that when I start to look at my needs, focusing on my needs versus my strategies, it opens up possibility and flexibility. So why does this all matter, right? What is the point of all this? Well, it really comes back to this idea of tying needs into feelings, right? The key phrase we use is I feel because I need, right? So if my needs are met, right, I have the pleasant feelings I want to have, happy, content, joyous, free. And feelings are also good to track because if I don't feel those things, if I'm feeling the unpleasant feelings, scared, angry, sad, lonely, it's going to point me to what I need. It's an important indicator, right? But here's the cool thing. I only need to get my needs met to have the feeling states that I want to achieve. Why is that important? Well, because it frees things up. It makes things a little more flexible. There's an old Rolling Stones song. I'm 55 years old. I'm dating myself, but an old Rolling Stones song that says you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need, right? And that's all I need is to get my needs met. So why is this important? Well, it opens the door to a couple of things, flexibility and connection. So see, the point is I may not appreciate your strategies. I may not appreciate the kids' strategies in my classrooms. That kid who's acting out like the class clown, I may not appreciate him doing that, disrupting my class. He may not appreciate, you know, my wanting him to be quiet and for us to do particular activities. Yeah. But underneath it, I can appreciate the need. And so that helps me stay in connection. One example that's really up for me right now is my wife and we lost our dog a year ago, and we just had the year anniversary, and my wife's been making motions towards, puppies and getting new dogs. And I'm finding myself resistant to that, and it's leading to a conflict between us. And, it's hard for me to appreciate the idea of having a dog right now because, I'm really enjoying like not having to clean up poop and consider the dog every time I go somewhere. And, you know, meanwhile, my wife is really, missing, cuddles and kisses and taking the dog with her when she walks. And so we can't appreciate each other's strategies. But if I were to ask you, and you can put this into the chat, what do you think her needs are? Yeah, this is if someone put Maslow in the chat. There's the hierarchy of needs as well, but um, love, yeah. So what does the dog give her? And this is what you can ask when you're trying to think of what's underneath, what's really important. See, when we're in a conflict, we want to get down to what's really important. Love, connection. Yeah, what else might be important? Companionship, unconditional love, companionship. Yeah, what else might be important to her? One of the ones that was loyalty, affection, sharing, comfort. Yeah, contribution. Yeah, she gets to contribute to another being's well-being. We have a need to contribute to each other's well-being, caring for another. Yeah. One of the ones that surprised me was safety. She likes, yeah, safety. She likes having, the warning of if someone came in the house or she's out on a walk. So see, her. I can't really appreciate the strategy of getting a dog, but I can totally appreciate the need for companionship, purpose, contribution, safety, love, unconditional love. I can totally appreciate that. So it keeps us in connection, keeps us in relationship. So when I can meet her at that level. Likewise, what do you think some of my needs are in this situation? Why would having a dog, what needs would not get met by me having a dog, do you think? Freedom, relaxation, peace. Exactly. Choice, food, maybe. Dog eats my food. Independence, money. Yeah, exactly. Financial things. There's so many. Yeah, and again, she can't, appreciate me not wanting to have a dog, but she can appreciate my need for freedom and ease and peace and choice. So when we go to solve the problem, what we do is we put all the needs on the table, right? We move from competition to collaboration, and we could do this with our students as well. We engage them in the solutions, right? By trying to get down underneath to what's really important and what's going on. Instead of me over you, right? Instead of making it a power game of power over and win-lose, we try to find a win-win solution. And the win-win is hard because when we focus on strategies only, if we focus on the two different opposing strategies, I love it. Get a dog and hire a dog sitter. Yeah. Actually, the choice we came up with was she wanted to foster a dog for a while. We tried that. And sure enough, well, we took the dog back after 3 days because it was way too much work. And she realized that she also was appreciating the freedom. But it wasn't so much about the solution. It was the fact that we came together and worked on it together. We sort of laid all the needs on the table and said, okay, let's get creative and flexible here, right? Because if I can maintain connection, right, that allows for creativity and flexibility. And I can connect around the needs because we all appreciate each other's needs. It's kind of hard not to appreciate someone's needs because they're universal. We all have the same needs. It's just the strategies, right? And so if we stay in connection, if we stay working together, we'll be more creative and we can be flexible around the strategies. How else do we get the needs met? Right? What can we do to get the needs met? It's this idea of working together, right? Find solutions that meet all the needs. So let's think about that kid who is the class clown, right? Um, first of all, I want to look at my needs, right? I might want to be aware of that too. So we call this self-empathy, right? Looking to myself first. Sometimes it's good to just get underneath to what's really going on here for me. What's really important to me? What's really, because sometimes I can solve this internally, you know? Um, uh, what are my needs in that situation? This kid is sort of, interrupting and making jokes and acting out in class, right? What are my needs in this situation? Why is that an issue? What needs are not being met by that kid doing that for me? Any ideas? You can put those in the chat. Getting through your lesson, my sanity, respect. Okay. See now, we'll encourage you when we try to get to needs, we're always trying to drill down to what's underneath, to what's really important. Because remember, all I have to do is get that really important thing met to have the feeling I want to feel. So a question you can ask yourself to take it deeper is if I had X, right? If I got through my lesson, what would that give me that's important to me? Why is that important, right? Being heard. Ah, there we go. Yeah. I'll give you satisfaction. Yeah. My need to contribute. There we go. Yeah, I can't contribute. I'm not able to get through my lesson. I can't contribute to these kids' well-being. Learning is really important to me. So Stephanie, why is getting off track an issue, right? Doing my job. Maybe there's an element of financial security, or maybe it's just, allow contribution, right? So teaching, so the need to teach, Jennifer, I would go underneath that, right? What does teaching give to me? What does teaching meet for me? I would say it's that need for contribution potentially. Fulfilling IEP goals and objectives, exactly. But why do we want to do that? What need does that meet for them, right? It's overall, it's this idea of well-being and respect for the other kids and their ability to learn, and right. So it's just kind of being aware of that, But honestly, the kid would distract me. I'd lose focus, right? And they wouldn't get the full lesson exactly. So I want to do my job well. Yeah, I want to contribute. Um, for me, it's interesting when I was presenting to some kids and I realized that they were sort of kind of interrupting my flow a little bit. For me, it was like I realized I really want to. it's almost like, if I could really be vulnerable with myself and be honest with myself, it's this idea that I matter. You know, I've done a lot of mediations and a lot of different conflicts for people over the years. Our organization does professional mediations as well, and we teach mediation. We practice working through conflicts. And what I see underneath a lot of conflicts are some basic needs that are always at the core. Uh, the need for safety, the need for to be loved and to be heard and to be seen and to matter, right? These are usually what's underneath the surface level of the conflicts, if we really were to be vulnerable and be honest. And so sometimes I can address that just internally. I realize that, well, this kid's saying a joke, interrupting me. Is it really mean I don't matter? No. You know, can I allow for a little bit of that? Can I be more flexible, right? But what would help that also is to look at now let's look at the kid. What need are they trying to meet by being a class clown? What do you think they're trying to do? They want to be accepted. Yeah. They want to matter. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. What else? Maybe. They want love, maybe. Yeah. We'll come back to that, Kellyanne, if you have too many with issues. Yes, it's attention. But so see, let's get underneath attention. Yeah. What does attention give them? If they get attention, what do they get that they need? Yeah, I don't think they really want they're actually driving the teacher crazy. That's the strategy, right? What need does that meet for them? Laughter, fun, power, maybe some self-empowerment, but I will be on power. We look at power as a bad thing, but I'm thinking this idea of autonomy, choice might be underneath of it, right? They're uncomfortable. They want comfort. Exactly. See, trying to get underneath it. And sometimes, we might acceptance by their peers, sure. So, you know, if we put, if we put all the relief of boredom, yeah, if we put all the needs on the table, see if we can communicate and we can think about this, like, well, how do I get my need for contribution, respect, you know, um, learning, and the need met for love, boredom, relief, fun, attention. How do I allow for that? What are the solutions we can come up with? What do you think? Are there some that you can think of? Maybe jump out. See, hopefully the idea of putting the needs on the tables and being collaborative and working with them. Yeah, do teamwork. Yeah. Yeah. Is there a way that kid could lead something? You could talk to them after class for sure, absolutely. And you'd probably work together with them, right? On, what is it that they get from that? And have some empathy, have some understanding of what their feelings and needs are. That's how I define empathy, is just a respectful understanding of someone's feelings and needs. And then hopefully be able to communicate mine to them, and work together. Have fun if appropriate. Use it as a teachable moment. Exactly. Work with them. And by the way, just by me caring, I'm building relationship with them, right? By not approaching it as a punitive thing, by looking at it as an opportunity for us to maybe do things differently or better. Hopefully I can come up with solutions that will meet all the needs. And again, there's a lot more to this, right? There's a lot we could teach you about nonviolent communication and practicing it, but hopefully just that idea alone maybe could get some progress, right? And maybe give you some ideas of things you can apply right away in the classrooms. Just a quick thought about empathy. Marshall defines it as and he's the guy, this is Marshall Rosenberg, the creator of nonviolent communication. He defines it as just respectful understanding of another person's experience. Note, he didn't say agreement, right? I think sometimes the fear is that by empathizing or trying to understand someone else's point of view, it means they think I'm going to be agreeing with that. Again, I don't have to like their strategies. I don't have to agree with their strategies. I'm just trying to understand their needs and appreciate the needs underneath it. And it does require staying with the energy that's here right now. You can be silent and be empathic too, just by listening. Giving them space. That's another way to build a relationship. It's just giving space for understanding. And then hopefully it'll open the door to them wanting to understand what's important to you and why that's important. Again, we're building relationship and being able to leverage the relationship ideally. So the basic MVC. Oh, I should mention, this is something I always think is an important caveat to throw in. We're not advocating being a jellyfish, right? We don't want to. Barbara Coloroso talks about parenting. She says there's brick wall families, which are authoritarian, my way or the highway, and very rigid, using punishments and rewards. And there's jellyfish family where anything goes. And we don't want that. We want something in between, right? We want a backbone family. We want structure, but with some flexibility. But definitely, we do believe in the protective use of force in this model, right? Obviously, there's for safety and for necessity, there are times where we will need to use force. But the idea is to not use it in a punitive way. We're not trying to be harmful, right? We're really just trying to keep things safe and for everybody, and that includes emotional safety too. So we do believe in that for sure. But using it sparingly and trying to do these other methods first. Just real quick, the nonviolent communication process. This is something that it's beyond the scope of us teaching here today, but I'll just kind of throw it out there that when you observe something, right, we look to our feelings and needs, try to get underneath it to what's important, and then we can start to figure out strategies and make requests. Yeah. And first, of course, doing self-empathy for myself to make sure I'm calm and alert and I know what's important to me internally first. Then when I'm ready to give empathy to the other, trying to understand what's important to them, what their needs are, right? And honestly expressing my needs to them and working together to meet them all out. And again, please I want you all to be able to connect with us. We're happy to come in and teach this more. I should mention, we're going to be doing a PDE3 class once the PD system works itself out. They're shifting the system, so I'm not sure when the next ones are going to be offered, but we have one called Empower Classroom Management, and it goes much deeper into all of this. It gives you much more ideas and techniques and tools that you can use. So keep an eye out for that. You can sign up for that. I want to show this video because I think Ross Green says this better than I do. Uh, and you can look up livesinthebalance.org as well to learn more about Dr. Ross Green. He works on something called collaborative and proactive solutions, which he says is not nonviolent communication, but I think it's the same in a lot of ways. It also involves this idea of trauma-informed care and this whole idea of motivation versus ability. And so this is a mindset shift that also might help you when dealing with kids that are having behavioral problems, is to help look underneath it. And I'll let him introduce the idea here himself. So.
I think if you're working with kids in general, but challenging kids in particular, you need a philosophy. Who is this kid? What's he about? What's he up to? If he's up to anything. Because you see, your philosophy is going to guide your actions, especially when the going gets tough. No philosophy, no guide. The most important theme of collaborative problem solving is this one. Kids do well if they can. Now, nobody ever falls off their chair at the sight of kids do well if they can. It's only an earth-shattering philosophy. If you consider a much more popular alternative philosophy that floats around out there called kids do well if they wanna. Now, kids do well if they can, and kids do well if they wanna are two completely different philosophies. And they have completely different ramifications for what you're going to do to or with this kid to make things better. Let's think about kids do well if they wanna for a second. If you've got a kids do well if they wanna mentality and you're working with a kid who's not doing well, then the reason you think he's not doing well by virtue of your philosophy is because he doesn't wanna. I've been thinking about kids do well if they wanna for a long time, and here's the conclusion I've come up with about kids do well if they wanna. It's wrong. Flat out, dead wrong. I ask myself, why would any kid not want to do well? Don't all of us do the best we can in the circumstances we find ourselves in? Well, the kids do well if they want to mentality has those questions covered with concepts like secondary gain, attention seeking, unmotivated, coercive, limit testing. We're going to have those babies put to bed by around 11 a.m. this morning. When you really think about them, they don't make much sense. When you really put them to the test, they don't make a great deal of sense. But let's say they do make sense. Even if kids do well if they wanna is right, and now you know I think it's wrong, it's narrow. Because you see, it greatly narrows the role that you can play in the life of a kid who's not doing well. Because if you think a kid isn't doing well because he doesn't wanna, I can only think of one thing for you to do, only one role for you to play in the life of this kid. Make him wanna. And we have the technology for making kids wanna. How do you make a kid wanna? You reward the behaviors you like and you punish the behaviors you don't. You give him the incentive to do well based on the belief that he didn't have the incentive to do well in the first place, and you are now in the business of making kids wanna. I sure do hope you're right about why he's not doing well, because if you're wrong and you're busy making a kid wanna, and he already does wanna, you run the risk of making things worse, or at the very least, not being as helpful as you might have wanted to be. I'm a kids do well if they can guy. I think if this kid could do well, he would do well. Something must be getting in his way. Your role just changed. Your role just changed. You've just flipped from thinking a kid isn't doing well because he doesn't wanna, and therefore thinking that your role in the life of this kid is to make him wanna, to something a lot harder, and in my experience, a lot more productive. You've just shifted to kids do well if they can, and what's your main role now? Figure out what's getting in his way. Then you can help him. You can't help him if you don't know what's getting in his way. Biggest favor you can do a challenging kid is to finally, at long last, be the person who figures out what's getting in his way. Because you see, if he's still challenging, it's a pretty surefire bet. Nobody's figured it out yet. The key theme of collaborative problem solving, the key philosophy, if you remember nothing else from everything I say, I hope you remember that if this kid could do well, he would do well, because kids do well if they can.
All right, so you can certainly follow up with that website, livesinthebalance.org. Dr. Ross Green is collaborative and proactive solutions. And granted, a lot of the work that you do here is about, he has tools to identify like the kid's lagging skills, and then techniques and methods for working with the kid to, and creating strategies for helping to develop those skills, even if they're social skills or whatever the skills are that might be getting in the way or causing the behavioral problem in the first place. And some of this would be done more in conjunction, maybe with like a vice principal and behavioral counselors getting involved as well for the kid, depending on the level of severity and the level of skills that's needed. But if it's something simple, you could potentially do things in the class too with the kid directly to help and to try to help build those skills. So I think that's a nice adjunct to the whole idea of building relationship, but also looking at this idea of ability versus motivation. Oh, can I skip to the next slide? Here we go. So going forward, yeah, we're just inviting you. This is really an invitation to start trying to put some of this into practice. Hopefully it gives you some ideas that you can use right away. But of course, seek first to understand, empathize with yourself, number one, because this is hard work, right? This is definitely hard. And a lot of these kids come in with a lot of challenges, so empathize and realize that, normalize it for yourself, right? But then empathize with them, look to what their needs are and communicate and build relationships and partner to connect together and work on finding strategies that meet all the needs. I wanted to leave a little time for questions. I put a file in the chat. Hopefully, if you're on a computer, you should be able to download it. It's a needs wheel. You might find that useful when thinking about what's the need, what's really going on underneath here, the universal needs that we can all connect around, and to try to create strategies to solve problems around. I'll put my email in here, info@terranjy.org. Our program is NVC NextGen, and it says info@nvcnextgen.org. That works as well. But this is our general email. I actually get copied on this email as well, so I'll see it as the director of programs. So if you want to reach out to us, you can email me directly at info@terranjy.org. The website, I'm going to stop. Actually, let me, hold on, go over to my other screen, escape, and F11 to exit full screen. So it's helpful to have a producer. I'm producing my own session today. This is our website, NVC NextGen. I'll put this in the chat as well for you. Where'd chat go? Here we go. Oops, I gotta make sure I send this to everyone. Oh, I sent that just to you, Kelly. Sorry. Sometimes it defaults. Hold on. There's the website. I'll put my email in again now, this time to everybody in the chat. There we go. Okay, so now you have my email, way to get a hold of us. way to learn more, we're happy to help. Please do reach out to us. We have a lot of free offerings that we could offer to you, your classes, and your school. Our goal is to make every school what we call a restorative school that's really utilizing those principles of restorative justice and trauma-informed care and nonviolent communication. And we teach a lot of different things. And look for our PDE3 class as well. Oh, the slide presentation. Yeah, let's see. I think I made this available. It's just a Google slideshow. So if I just copy the link and put it into chat, you should all be able to access it that way. But questions, we do have a few minutes here. Any other questions? Oh, thanks, Wendy. I appreciate that. Yeah, seeing lots of good things. Thank you. But yeah, you can just unmute at this point, probably, if you just want to ask me a question too. I think we can manage that, even though there's a lot of people here. I'll stick around. I got nowhere to be for another 15 minutes. Anything I can help anybody with, I'll stop sharing. Make it easier. Oh, come on. There we go. Ta-da. Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions if anyone wants to unmute and ask. Thanks, Stephanie. Really appreciate it. The PDE3 class, it'll be offered as soon as we can. The whole system seems to be in flux right now. They're trying to get a new technological system in place for PDE3. So we're kind of waiting to hear what the status is for that, but we want to offer it ideally in the spring or summer as soon as we can. It'll be a
When
24-hour
you,
course. Oh, yeah. Hi, Nicole. Yeah.
hi, for the PDE3,
Uh-huh.
when it is available, how do we go, like, how do we go about finding it once it is available?
You can look up this topic. That's what we're calling it, is empowered classroom management. So you could just search for that
Okay.
in the
And then we
system.
would register through your organization.
Yeah, and also through us. Yeah, we'll put some stuff out there too. You can come back to our website, and look for it. We'll be advertising it there too. And we have social media too. You can try to follow us, Karen James Young Foundation, on social media too. Yeah, hopefully summer, Karen, if not earlier. You didn't see the link to the presentation,
I have another question.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Put it back in
outside of
here.
this training, like any recommendations? Because I've read, I've seen YouTube videos and I've read nonviolent communication, and would love to know, how can someone like me who wants to learn how to do it, like, is there
Oh, sure, yeah.
a study group, like more than just like a one-time class? Is there
Yeah.
like ongoing support?
We do if there's if there's enough interest, we'll create separate groups. Right now we do a Thursday group. If you go to our website, you'll see under events, there's a Thursday practice group that meets at 12 on Thursdays. Like you can lunch and learn there, potentially, even if you only come to part of it. We go from 12 to 1:30, but you can come for part of that even. And we'd be happy to, if we had enough interest, we could maybe schedule like another practice group too. If you have other teachers who want to learn, for example, we could try to find a time for that. Yeah, it does take practice, right? It's like one thing to be introduced to an idea, but as you try to practice it, there's the nuances for sure. I'm still learning myself. All right, well, we're at 11:45. I'll stick around. I'm going to stop the recording, but thank you all. We do hope you reach out to us.